Paul McCartney is no stranger to surprising his fans. For decades, he has carried the weight of the Beatles' legacy on his shoulders, performing the classics everyone loves. But at a recent show, something happened that shocked even the most loyal fans. Paul reached deep into the past and played a Beatles song that hadn't been performed in full for over 60 years. The crowd couldn't believe what they were witnessing. It was like history had come alive right in front of them. Why did he bring this song back now, and what made it so powerful? Let's dive in. The lights dimmed, and Paul's band had just finished a string of familiar hits. Everyone thought they knew what was coming next. Hey Jude, Let It Be, the usual favorites. But instead, Paul leaned into the microphone and simply said, "We haven't done this one in a very long time." The opening notes rang out, and the audience froze. People looked at each other in disbelief. Could it really be happening? Yes. Paul McCartney was about to perform a Beatles song that hadn't been played live since the 1960s. For many, it was like stepping into a time machine. Not every Beatles song got the spotlight. Some became permanent fixtures of their concerts, while others disappeared after their early days. This particular track, while beloved by die-hard fans, was shelved as the band grew bigger and their music evolved. The Beatles themselves never played it in full after their early tours, and when they quit live shows in 1966, it seemed lost forever. Paul, John, George, and Ringo moved on to bigger and more complex songs. So why bring it back now? The answer lies in Paul's unique way of honoring both his past and his fans. What makes the story even more magical is that Paul didn't announce this song beforehand. It wasn't on the set list anyone had seen. His crew didn't post about it, and fans didn't expect it. For years, his shows have been carefully designed, mixing Beatles hits with Wings classics, but this time, he wanted to shake things up. Backstage, Paul reportedly told his band, "Let's give them something special tonight." That decision set the stage for one of the most emotional moments of his career. A song hidden for decades was about to shine again. The second Paul strummed those opening chords, something electric filled the room. Gasps, cheers, and even tears spread through the crowd. Some fans raised their phones in disbelief, while others simply stood frozen, afraid to miss a second. Younger fans realized they were witnessing history, while older ones felt transported back to the 1960s when the Beatles first shook the world. People sang along softly at first, then louder as Paul's voice carried the melody. It was more than music. It was a bridge across generations, connecting the present to a moment thought lost in time. In the 1960s, Paul's voice was youthful, full of raw energy. Now, at over 80, his voice carries a different kind of power. When he sang this song again after 60 years, it wasn't about hitting the high notes perfectly. It was about emotion, history, and the journey of a lifetime. His older voice added a weight the original never had, like a story finally told in full. Fans noticed the tenderness in his delivery, the way he let every word linger. It wasn't just Paul singing a Beatles song, it was Paul sharing a piece of himself. When this Beatles track was first recorded, the world was very different. The Beatles were still young men with everything ahead of them. Their songs spoke of love, youth, and discovery. This particular track carried that same innocent spark, a reminder of how the Beatles started before fame turned their world upside down. Hearing Paul revisit it decades later gave the song a new meaning. It wasn't just a trip down memory lane. It was a reminder of how far both Paul and his fans had traveled since those early days of rock and roll. After the concert, social media exploded. Fans wrote about how the performance made them cry, how they never thought they'd hear this song live in their lifetime. Some older fans said they felt like teenagers again, hearing Paul's voice echo through the arena. Younger fans said they finally understood why the Beatles were more than just music. They were history. Videos spread online, and soon the performance went viral. What touched people most wasn't just the rarity of the song, but the love Paul poured into every note. He gave fans something they'd never forget. Many fans believe Paul's choice to perform this song wasn't random. Over the years, he has often used music to send subtle messages about remembering the past, about cherishing what we still have. Some say this was his way of honoring John and George, his lost bandmates, by bringing back a piece of their shared history. Others believe it was Paul's message to fans that even after all these years, the music lives on. The performance wasn't just nostalgia, it was a reminder that the Beatles' spirit is still alive every time a song is played. In today's world, where so much music is digital and fleeting, Paul's live performance stood as a reminder of something real. It showed that songs are not just notes on a record, they're living memories that can still touch hearts decades later. For Paul, it was proof that even after 60 years, the music still has power. For the fans, it was a once-in-a-lifetime gift, and for the world, it was a reminder of how the Beatles continue to shape culture, even long after their final concert. As the final notes faded, the crowd erupted in applause that shook the arena. Paul smiled, soaking in the moment. He had just given fans something they'd remember forever. This wasn't just another concert, it was history repeating itself in the best way possible. 60 years later, a forgotten Beatles song was reborn, and with it, Paul reminded everyone why the Beatles' music is timeless. Decades may pass, voices may age, but the songs remain. For those who were there that night, it wasn't just about hearing a song, it was about feeling the Beatles alive once more. When this Beatles track first appeared, it wasn't one of their biggest hits, but it carried the raw excitement of a band just beginning to change music forever. In smoky clubs and early concerts, the Beatles played it with fire, winning over fans one night at a time. The song was simple but powerful, capturing the innocence and rebellion of youth. Back then, no one knew just how far the Beatles would go. Hearing Paul bring it back now reminded everyone of the band's roots. It was like holding a snapshot of the moment when 4 young men from Liverpool started rewriting history. 60 years is a lifetime. When Paul strummed those chords again, fans couldn't help but think of everything that had happened since the song was last played. The Beatles' rise, their breakup, the solo careers, and the heartbreaking losses of John and George. All of that history lived inside Paul's voice as he sang. Every note carried not just the song, but the story of friendship, creativity, and survival. For fans who had followed Paul through all these decades, the performance was more than music. It was living proof that even after everything, the songs still find a way to live again. One of the most magical parts of that night was watching the younger fans. Many had grown up listening to Beatles records their parents or grandparents played, but they had never seen this song performed live, not even on old concert footage. For them, it was like a lost treasure had been uncovered right before their eyes. After the show, many young fans searched for the original track, streaming it for the first time. The performance didn't just honor the past, it introduced the Beatles' magic to a whole new generation, ensuring the song would never be forgotten again. As Paul waved to the cheering crowd, he left more than a memory, he left a legacy. Bringing back a song after 60 years wasn't just a treat, it was a statement. It showed that music is eternal, that no matter how much time passes, a melody can still touch the soul the same way it did decades ago. Paul didn't need to